Alright guys, part 2. So for part 2, I had to redo this because my dad started screaming about something and my cat kept pausing the video because she wanted love and attention from me, and so she climbed onto my desk. So, I'm not really going to talk much during the intro because I do really like the intro song. But I do have a lot more to say about this animatic than I do the first one. Like Logan's glowing gold eyes, the little stars in Patton's eyes, 2 and 3 popping out there, the little blue sparks, very nice. Superhero Roman. Virgil using his powers to escape because of anxiety. Using his powers to pick up. I wonder if Virgil's supposed to be saying anything there, because I would always wondered that. You did an amazing job with the sound editing, Robin's cousin, Heavy Bleak. Fantastic job. Fantastic. And I love this title card so much. The little different changes. So, hypothesis and conjecture. Let's dive in.
It's been roughly 2 weeks since they sat down and talked. Logan claimed he observed everything by being home the most. He worked part-time at a bookstore and spent the rest of his time on the computer, doing some kind of coding and debugging most of the time.
I will mention, first and foremost, I did have a friend who went to college for coding and such, and I did talk to her in depth one day about a bunch of stuff. Not that she knew I was digging for research information for a fanfic, but I've come to one conclusion after talking to her.
He tried explaining, but he had a tendency to go off on tangents, and they had gotten off topic quickly.
It's boring, so I didn't talk about it. A lot of it would have just went over people's heads, and I just thought it was too much, so I didn't do it. But while I'm paused here, I do want to point out I love Robin's little interpretations of all the characters. Patton's fluffy, curly hair, Virgil having ear piercings, Roman having red hair, which I hadn't thought of.
Logan promised that he didn't use his powers, not even for simple things if he could help it. He calmed them down, promising he had never read their minds since they had moved in. He promised he did not have plans to do so in the future, mostly to settle down Virgil, who seemed the most anxious and upset at the news of his ability.
Yes.
Patton admitted he never really used his at all until he had moved out a few years ago, but mostly just made 1 or 2 copies to help with chores or to keep him.
Gonna say it now before it happens, before the thing happens, but you know what I'm talking about. This is Patton, this is 2, and this is 3. And I've decided that, but based off of their personalities, I have decided for them.
Company, then things got too quiet. He had mentioned he was usually careful until his slip up with Virgil.
Yes.
Roman had a problem with using his subconsciously and not being aware of it.
I liked thinking about Roman's powers. Like, a lot of people have, like, oh, I have to learn how to control my powers, but there's a lot of things you can't control, things that happen subconsciously in a lot of comic books and stuff like that. So I had Roman's be a mix of things that just happen around him subconsciously, like she's gonna mention that I wrote, and the creative aspect that if he could think it and he could work on it, he could pretty much do it because he is creativity.
His phone never seemed to lose a charge when he was using it, and sometimes he forgot to plug things in before
What's
using
that
them.
hairdryer?
He also had the problem
sound.
of constantly being a source of static shock and static
Yes.
cling. Nothing too bad, but after admitting this, Virgil had brought a pack of balloons and Roman had woken up to a dozen balloons clung to him and a snickering Virgil.
I forgot I wrote that until Robin posted this picture. It wasn't tilted or anything, it was just a regular picture. She posted that and I forgot I wrote that. There's a lot of things that happened that I laugh at that I forgot I did.
Virgil had stated he never used his powers out of fear something might go wrong. But if he was about to miss a bus or a train or was about to be late for an appointment, he didn't see the harm in stopping time for a bit just so he didn't have to worry.
So he uses his powers only when his anxiety about missing something is higher than his anxiety about using his powers. When he gets anxious, oh, too anxious. When his anxiety for one thing outweighs the anxiety for the other.
A juggler of Roman, who was amused by the prospect of such a strong power being used to help Virgil to get to work on time at the craft store, in case he slept in too late.
Yep.
With the secrets out in the open, they seemed to be more relaxed around one another.
Listen to the sound, you can
Becoming
hear
closer
it.
friends than the first 3 months or so they had lived
Yes.
together.
The fluff.
Patton could be found cleaning the living room or cooking, while he was also at work as a library assistant. A job
Yes.
he found ironic Logan didn't have. Organizing catalogs and working with the computers was up his alley, but Logan much preferred the time he had at home.
I don't know if every library is like this, but my library in town is near an elementary school, so it gets a lot of kids and a lot of kid events and field trips and such. So I like the fact that Patton has that job because not only is he organizing books and stuff like that, he's dealing with a lot of people, especially a lot of children.
Working on small projects and
We're gonna be sitting here for a little bit. Logan's desk. When I saw this shot of Logan's desk, I sat here probably for about 5 minutes looking at everything. I like he's an organized person, but his desk is a chaotic mess. It looks like he's got like a marker or a highlighter open he had forgotten about or had been using. He's got a little old-fashioned slip phone, like not a flip phone, but like it's sides to the side and there's a keyboard. He's got a little dad joke book from Patton. This is a little TARDIS. I like to imagine it's one of those like USB hub TARDISes or something, or just like one that lights up that he just has at his desk. I like the use of these. I thought they were out of place, like the beakers and the microscope. But then I thought about it more and it made sense, which I can't explain why for spoilers in case people aren't reading ahead. I like the little jar of crafters on the ground there. The E equals MC squared. I like the lamp. I like that the lamp says lamp. She says it's a reference to something else, but I like to just imagine it's a call out to the fandom. The Sherlock hat and scarf down here, which I hadn't noticed at first until she pointed it out. I'm like, oh yes, it is. My favorite thing was Robin messaged me about this. There's this little picture frame right here. Now you can't really tell, but it looks like there's 3 figures on it. Maybe 1, 2, 3. She had asked me a specific question that has to do with the sequel, and asked if Logan would have a picture of something on his desk, and I said absolutely he would. So she added that into the desk, and I love that she did
reading,
that.
though he never explained what he
Also,
was
I love that she made Logan ambidextrous, that he can do 2 things at once. He can write with his right and type with his left. That is something I need to add into the story to make it like more canon, because it's beautiful.
That's the first time they had asked. They were too afraid of the confusing answers they would get again. Although Patton's favorite part of the
This, I remember her sharing a screenshot. This is not Joan and Talon. This is Elliot and Kai from Cartoon Therapy. Specifically, that's where their outfits are from and everything like that. So they, them, he, him characters. So I was super excited to see that added in. And I also apologize to Robin about the bookshelves.
was when students would come in from school, or when they had nights where
This one, when I was watching this, I gasped. I didn't notice anything else. I didn't notice the Undertale reference with the book because I was too busy going, foxes on his socks. She drew the fox on Pakani's socks with the Stitch puppet, which I loved so much.
he and the librarian read children's books.
And made the librarian listen to that again.
Students would come in from school, or when they had nights where he and the librarian read children's books to the
When he and the librarian read children's books. So pretty much, I changed the AU I'm making in Practical to include the fact that Emil Pakani is no longer a therapist. He is a librarian that moves into town and like starts working at the library and becomes Patton's boss like a couple months after they move in together, like maybe like 6 months or something like that. So just because I liked that idea so much. And this is supposed to be Terrence, I believe, Valerie, and a little shout out to Deceit, just nomming on a little snick there. That looks like the ball from Toy Story, personally.
kids. Roman had admitted he had been laid off from a comfy desk job about a year or so ago and hadn't found decent work since.
That little fun fact is from personal experience. I was also laid off from a comfy desk job, and it took me a while to find a decent job after, which is, you're supposed to write what you know, so Roman's story
Resulting in an
results to
embarrassing
me.
job he refused to talk about, besides venting about co-workers with as few details as possible.
Yes.
All they knew was that he also worked at the local theater, and his other job involved him acting as well, though
Yes.
those were all the details he ever gave.
Yep.
Weeknights where everything lined up and they could gather around and talk happened once in a while. But instead of hiding away,
Tartar
they quickly
shirt.
became family nights, as Patton called them. They would sit around and talk.
I didn't notice this until somebody pointed it out. The picture in the background is the picture from Thomas's living room, the big picture.
Just relaxing and having
Beautiful
dinner.
touches.
Patton had the most experience cooking something that hadn't been pre-frozen, and had
Yes.
started teaching them the basics and having them explore the world outside of pizza and pasta.
Yes.
Currently gathered
Beautiful.
in the living room, Patton and Roman.
Few fun facts we'll go over right now. Cat, you can't keep coming up to me and snuggling me. This is too much. You've already made me restart this video twice, actually. I restarted the first one once because of you, too. Oh, you're falling. You got it? You good? Now she's done with me because she almost fell. This book, this space book, once we see the back of it, when Logan goes to his room, I got a message one day, and I had just gotten on break and turned on my phone, and it was a message from Robin saying, I wrote a thing on the back of the book, this is what it says. And I don't remember what it was. You can't scroll back far enough in our messages to see it anymore. But I was like, Robin, that's... it was, I don't remember what it was, but I remember being like, uh-huh, that's a little interesting. She's like, do you want to write something instead? So on the back of this book, it'll say Resident Anchor on the bottom, because I actually wrote that. I wrote what this book would be about.
Shared the couch. Logan sat in the recliner with a book currently
I pretty much made this recliner right here. I used my fingers as a mouse. I made that his chair. So,
open but placed face down onto her armrest.
and I love
and
Patton
Roman
just
sat on the floor between the
his
couch
knees
and
and
the
his
coffee table
sweater. I love that so
Dinner
much.
had been loud and they had all ventured over to the living room some time ago.
Look, they're
Roman pulled out a
bonding.
bottle of wine he had gotten as a housewarming gift and had shared it, but only Virgil had taken him up on the offer. It was cheap
Yes.
and Virgil was nursing it, mostly just swirling it around the cheap glass he had. Roman used an actual wine glass, the only one they had owned.
Because he's extra.
I'm telling you, I could just freeze time and follow you, and you would never know.
Okay, that was Alto, our Virgil. I always want to say my Virgil, because they're like, they're not my children, but I love them all so dearly, and I talk to them in the Discord from time to time. I had to apologize to Alto when they were recording their lines, because also, they're a little younger, doesn't really drink, so I was like, hey, when you do some of the scenes in the end of the animatic, I gave some tips, and I think they nailed it, to be honest. And my hand here, just love them as Roman. Hold on, just listen.
I just don't want you distracting me while I work. Besides, you wouldn't dare. It'd be a massive waste of your... I was going to say energy. Wipe that smile off your face.
Sure you were.
Now, I've heard both of them talk. Alto said that they completely scrapped their first recordings and redid everything in one day, which I felt so bad when I heard that. But they didn't like some lines and they were redoing it and it didn't sound right and blah 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 blah. Alto, I love her. Han, love them. Sarah, love them. Robin plays Patton in this. I guess there were some issues with the Patton that they had picked out. I guess she couldn't do it or something. I don't know the details. I just am excited to hear her in the next one if she can. Let's go
Now,
back into
kids,
this.
no need to fight.
Aw, but Dad.
No need to whine, kiddo.
Patton, please. Your humor leaves much to be desired.
Now, Sarah as Logan I thought was a very interesting choice. Robin said it was because of the accent, and I was like, okay, if you say so, Robin. I had no decision in the voice acting choices. They all emailed Robin. I actually sent in some audio for Robin. It wasn't an audition tape, though. It was me going, hi, my name is Celery, aka Resident Anchor, and Robin, I love you, and I just, like, rambled for 5 minutes about how much I loved her. But I immediately got sold on Alto. Especially with the later scenes, I immediately got sold by Han. She just did an amazing job. Sarah was sold to me when Logan starts doing some of his rants or his talking. So pretty early on, even though I had heard their voices, I was madly in love.
I don't know.
And it's no secret that I love Robin as Patton. I talked about that in the first one.
Do you think maybe,
I am?
Oh, I knew it! Oh, that helps to prove my theory more. See, I think
That is currently my lock screen on my phone. That adorable little Patton right there giving a peace sign.
our powers have a secondary side effect. I didn't realize until last week when we were talking.
Oh. Well, that is a possibility I hadn't given much thought. I'd love to talk more in depth about this. You work late tomorrow, correct?
Yes,
Perhaps
that's
we can talk during lunch before you leave.
I have to prepare this.
It was at
new
this
field
point
trip the next morning,
I
so
loved
I'm
all of their
closing, yeah.
voices.
We can make lunch together. Oh, this is so exciting. Thanks, Logan. Good night.
The little gloves on Roman, you guys have to realize, Deceit didn't exist as a character when I was writing the beginning of this. So the gloves on Roman are entirely due to his abilities. He has to wear the gloves when he does dishes or it just makes him feel off.
When Logan got to his room, he looked around the small desk and bed that occupied his living space.
Yep.
There wasn't
And-
much room for anything else. His closet filled with books and journals he had filled. He
Yes.
glanced down at the science fiction novel he had been reading before dinner. Normal.
So coming up with this, what inspired this was the Standard Side's Q&A when Logan talks about the YouTube channel he would have. He would do videos talking about discrepancies in like media. So from the USS Enterprise to a tiny blue police phone box. So you got your Star Trek, you got your Doctor Who. What exactly is it like once you leave the stratosphere? So many inconsistencies and false science is given when these two voyage out into the greatest unknown, find themselves apart in travel. So pretty much, I made a book going, what science is real in some of these media? Like, what research is actually done? So that's why it has my name at the bottom. Because I quickly made a decision, typed it up at work, and sent it to Robin.
By now, but
So,
he was quickly finding
technically
the
it is by
companionship of
me.
his new roommates much more
I like the
enjoyable
little
than
shout out,
what really
though.
happened.
Cup of coffee.
The next morning had brought a
Coffee.
calmer energy to the apartment. Logan had stayed up slightly later than he normally would due to the social gathering that had distracted him the night before.
What were you doing,
Though ever
Logan?
punctual, he had gotten up as early as he normally would, happy to find Virgil had already made a pot of coffee on his way to work. He poured himself a cup, greeting Virgil, who mumbled back, already taking a big swig of his own coffee. Virgil didn't drink it often. He said it made him too jittery. But
Yes.
earlier shifts made it a requirement due to the late nights he always had on the computer.
So, everyone's like, oh, Virgil's a coffee drinker. I am not of that opinion. I like to imagine he avoids it as much as he can because lots of caffeine is bad for anxiety.
I take it that by your state, you are opening the store today, Virgil?
The only people that need yarn at 9 a.m. are old ladies with nothing better to do.
Which is true.
Thank goodness I stocked the store. I could not deal with people this early.
Oh,
Hey,
those sound
do me a
effects.
favor. If Pan asks, I ate breakfast.
Yes.
Any improvement was good improvement, Logan reminded him.
That's keep note of that, guys. Any improvement is good improvement. Okay?
It wasn't much later that Patton showed up, and
Okay.
Logan knew Roman wasn't too far behind. He never slept in,
I like the little shot of him without his glasses.
claiming it was bad
There
to
we go.
oversleep and would ruin the whole point of beauty sleep. Soon after, Roman was off to the theater
Bye,
to work
Roman.
on another possible show before heading out to his actual job afterward,
Yes.
leaving Logan and Patton alone. They settled back into the living room, Patton taking his usual spot at one end of the couch and Logan taking his recliner.
Yes.
Patton pulled out a few pieces of paper he had, covered in words and scribbled notes. So, I did a lot of research.
I love these notes. First off, that dog face, 10 out of 10. I like the little stopwatch. I like the random flower. That looks like Virgil and Roman and Logan a little bit. The Pikachu, I'm pretty sure is from a comment left on the first episode where someone's like, Roman is pretty much a Pikachu. Robin ended up drawing Roman as a Pikachu in a Pikachu onesie.
I had a few theories.
The little sparkle he gets in his eyes, he didn't have a second
I did
before.
a lot of research trying to figure stuff out.
Yes.
I had a few
Sparkle.
theories, so
Ooh.
it's kind of messy because I just wrote things down as I had ideas, but
Mom's calling.
I have to take this. Sorry, Logan. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, it's me.
Hi, Mom. Okay, let's see. Powers. Virgil has time stop power. I like puppies. They're so cute. Logan, mind stuff. Flying stuff. Glowy eyes. Battery. Roman's kinda like Pikachu. Empath. Just cute little notes. I know they're like quick scribbles, but I love this. Actually, the little dog face is an emoji on the Discord.
It seemed that you started wondering the correlation of your abilities with outside circumstances and trying to make connections. You try and find similarities between your powers and things that happen that don't seem related.
And that's when I was like,
yeah,
Sarah,
that's what I
I'm
was
sold.
doing.
You're 100% Logan.
I was wondering, after Roman got all those balloons stuck to him, if our powers had side effects.
That is an interesting observation. You seem to have written something here about your own abilities?
Oh, what's the little cat for? Maybe because you're a copycat. I like to imagine that there's a certain point people watch this where they're sold on the voice actors, like I was, or you're just upset. I've seen, not very often, but I've seen some comments of people like, oh, I could do it better, blah blah blah. Well, the fact of the matter is, I love my voice actors. And even though I had no choice in who Robin picked, or who got chosen, or anything like that, I love all of them. I love my little trio,
Hey, when I make my little pattern pals, I kind of feel.
and
how
everybody
they
knows I
feel,
love Pat.
Like,
love
if
Robin.
they are in another room and they feel strongly about something, I can feel
This
that,
little patent face, by the way, right here, is the cutest thing I've ever seen on the planet. Fight Me 2018.
but I don't really understand why.
It's so
until after
cute.
we become one again.
Oh, now
So,
go
okay,
on.
Last week I had started wondering if I had side effects to my abilities.
This is the point where I pretty much go, Patton is also an empath, which the character I based these very loosely off of. Some had secondary abilities, some didn't. The copycat character didn't have a secondary ability. She just could make copies of herself, but I had decided that I wanted to do more with the abilities very, very, very early on. So I gave them all secondary abilities. Roman's was the hardest to decide on because I couldn't decide if I wanted it to be like something that he couldn't control, kind of like how his abilities work, or just have it be something else. But I couldn't pick anything I liked. Virgil's is in chapter 3, Logan's you learn in chapter 1, and chapter 2 you learn
I started
patents.
noticing that I could feel nervousness, but none of my little buddies were out. Then I noticed it was coming from Virgil. He was worried about something that happened at work, and I got him to talk about it. I mentioned me feeling the emotions of the copies I make. Gosh, I need a better word for them.
Pattern.
Note to
Right.
myself, I need a
Sorry.
better word for them. Pals.
Anyway,
I went with
Virgil said
pals.
it was called being an empath.
Yes.
I think since I've never made my buddies appear with other people around, I had never noticed. I started wondering
Yeah,
if
that happy
Roman
little
and
face.
Virgil had second-lesser abilities as well, besides Roman being so positively attractive.
I need to mention that I wink. Now, when I wrote that chapter, when I wrote that scene, I imagined him, when he said positively, just like winking, being so positively attractive. Like going, that is a pun, Logan. Totally a pun. Robin pretty much said, I'm gonna make Patton just outright flirt, but without Robin being there. And I love every second of it. I'm not even
What
mad.
do you think?
I must say, Patton, while your note-taking skills are lacking, you do have a solid hypothesis. This could be looked further into.
Also,
Really?
oh, sorry. The ships don't come. I'm a slow burn author. Sorry. But Robin is nice enough to give you very slight ship material if you pay attention.
I did good.
And a lot of people have guessed what
yes,
they are.
Patton, you did good. Although, technically speaking, it would be, I did well. I am rather...
I do get comments on that once in a while. They're like, oh, the grammar here wasn't correct. Or like my beta reader pointed out. And I'm like, if somebody is saying something and they are saying it incorrectly, I'm going to leave it because it makes it feel more real. Because not everybody speaks in perfect grammar. I certainly am not giving this
I don't
commentary.
know when I would have noticed.
It was
Virgil's
around
home.
2 p.m. when Virgil got home.
I love. Okay, I don't think I mentioned it till later on that they live. They're the only apartment on the 3rd floor. It's a 3-story building, and they're on the 3rd floor. And so the little 3 outside of the door is a very nice touch, and then that is the stairway to the rooftop.
Having just missed Patton as he headed towards the library.
Yes.
These moments used to be some of Virgil's favorites. Logan was in his room, and the place was empty. And
Half the comments are about this scene from Supernatural, and I'm not mad.
he could put on a show or a music for background noise and just relax without any worries. As he sat on the couch, he was aware of how much he had already preferred the noise of laughter and banter from his roommates. Roman had gotten hold.
I've heard a lot of comments about that. A Harry Potter play, Prince's Ham. I don't know what this one is exactly supposed to be. I can imagine it being like Hannah instead of Heather's or something like that. But we have pretty much, Be More Cool, we have pretty much decided that is Han, who is the voice actor for Roman. And that's what it says.
Room around 4 after a rough day. The theater was doing auditions on a day he couldn't get out of his dreaded job.
Look at his
and he
sad,
wasn't
sad
even
eyes.
be
I'm
able
so
to audition,
sorry.
let alone be in the play if he could. Then he got the short end of the straw afterward at his job. He worked in a themed restaurant.
So I did message Robin about this. I'm like, okay, I love this. I love Little Pirate. This is definitely 100% Mabel Pines from Gravity Falls. But I was like, who is this? Because the character looks familiar to me, and Robin just outright told me, it's nobody. She just drew a character that she thought fit. She couldn't think of anything else.
Sure. Who also waited on tables.
It's bugging
Not
me
the
because they
most
look
fulfilling
like
job,
somebody.
but until then, he
But
looked
yes,
for
Mabel.
jobs elsewhere by performing for customers and enjoying what he can.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there was the worst part of the job. The mascot.
Mascot. Look
They
at the
drew
stare into
straws
your
to see who
eyes.
got stuck at the front of the store trying to get customers, where most people ignored him or made fun of him. He was good at banter, but some days people just
Gotta be mean.
Today, Roman drew the short straw. He made it up the flights of stairs to his apartment, and he was greeted by Virgil, sitting on the couch watching something on TV and on his phone. Roman made no hesitation to the cheap wine they had the night before. He
Yep.
poured himself a generous glass, not being as slow at it as the night before. He finished it before pouring a second and making his way into the living room.
Yes.
Watching anything interesting?
Not really. Whoa, bad day. That's it. Slow down there, buddy. You're gonna get a headache drinking cheap crud like that too fast.
cheap wine tastes like spiked fruit juice that just gives you a headache really fast.
How did I go from a nice, cushiony desk job to this in less than a year?
Mmm.
If I have one more thing thrown at me, I will lose it.
I love that line.
No, you won't. You're too good for that.
And this one.
You're like a prince straight out of a Disney movie.
Thanks, Maleficent. I appreciate that.
No proud, Prince Philip.
Oh, fantastic.
Looks like the battery died.
My batteries don't just die,
Say
Virgil.
my batteries.
Maybe you need a charge, Princey.
Taking personal offense. This is the first scene where it's really noticeable that I'm writing what's happening, like Roman trying to focus and bring out his electricity and nothing happening, but there's no commentary. It's just all animated.
Rather odd.
Looks like someone lost their spark. How do you usually do that?
I just sort of have this fuzzy feeling, and I focus on it, and it happens. It's kind of fuzzier than normal now.
There was one comment on this animatic that, well, if it worked, here.
Why is this so hard?
Well, when's the last time you used it?
I used it before I got home. The battery wasn't dead, and I checked my phone while walking up the stairs.
Okay, now I'll stop and say this. Somebody asked me why it would have worked just outside the door, but it wouldn't have worked sitting inside, and it tried blipping on and nothing happened.
So the battery finally fizzled out?
That's why, because in doing so, he fizzled out the battery. It's like when you use a battery for something too often and it's constantly charging, it doesn't last nearly as long. Roman's battery had completely fizzled out, but because he is a battery, as long as it's near him and he's giving it somewhat of a charge, it doesn't shut off. So, coming up the stairs, the whole thing fizzled out his battery.
Could have no battery, but as long as it's touching me, it'll stay on and keep a charge.
He didn't realize his battery in his phone was dead because he's always charging it.
Could it be the wine?
What? You think the wine shorted me out?
Shorted you and your phone out? Yeah. The charge could come from your brain and the alcohol dampened it.
Great. My super weakness is alcohol. Fantastic.
Well, that's rather interesting.
Logan, where did you come from? What's the book for? Why are you taking notes, man? What's
Say
going
you
on?
Short-circuited because of the wine. That's something we need to test as well.
So, you're saying we should get different types of alcohol and see what short circuits Princey out.
Well, that is a viable test that we could run.
Oh, I am so in.
A quick
I would just like to point out, I love the little shout out to me on the door. Fresh celery. It's very, very nice. I started bursting out laughing when I heard that, when I read that. I would also like to point out, I have a very good friend. I call him my nephew. He's not actually my nephew. On Tumblr. Aaron Doodles. Poor boy. English not his first language. He didn't realize celery. He confused it with something else because language barriers. And it was about this time this came out when he watched it. He learned that celery is actually a vegetable.
trip to the store, and Logan had already begun to regret his decision.
I like that little shout
They
out.
made the way up the stairs, headed towards the rooftop of the apartment building. The colder weather had made it a perfect place where they weren't likely to be bothered. Roman pushed open the door with Virgil trailing, both carrying the majority of the bags up to the roof, while Logan carried one with his journal firmly in the other hand.
Alright, Roman, are you still under the effects of the wine from earlier?
Bzz.
All good now.
Great. Now, drink up.
Yes, I would like to finish early. I have work in the morning.
So this entire scene coming up is inspired by the web series I based this off of. A lot of the first two chapters are. After that, it deviates a lot like a lot. Like I have had somebody who's a fan of the story go and watch the web series and go, "Wow, those are completely different." And I'm like, "Yes, I know. It's inspired by. It's not a rewriting of." But there is a scene, I think in like, I don't know, the third season or something like that, where they go to the rooftop and they have a few drinks and they have a whole science lesson. It goes completely different than what I write.
feel like I'm back in college.
You're not that much older than me. Stop acting like college was forever ago.
I'm older than all of you.
Now, if I had reread this chapter and edited it, I would have wrote, I am older than both of you, because Logan is not older than Patton. The age goes Patton, Logan, Roman, Virgil. Patton being the oldest, and Virgil being the youngest.
I'll be observing and taking notes as we go along.
Champagne or whiskey?
Drink responsibly, kids. Remember, don't drink beer and then drink the hard stuff. It's how you get sick. Do it the other way. No. I saw that little addition added in, drink responsibly, kids, and I'm like, that's a good note to add. I didn't think about that. Thanks for adding that, Robin.
But what's the point if I never drink?
Come on, Roman, it's for science. I thought you wanted to know how this stuff worked.
I do. I'd love to know how my powers work.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Not really. Sure, there's stuff I don't understand, but if I never use them, then there's no worry, right?
I thought you did use your powers sometimes? I can never tell. It's not like I can see stopped time. You're not even a little curious? Never lost control of your powers?
If you read the story, you know what happened. And I have nothing more to add.
Come on, Roman, light up.
I lied. Okay, I do have a little bit more to add. Their backstories. I wrote Logan's first, which is funny because I told his last. I don't get to his backstory until the sequel. Then I wrote Virgil's, and then I wrote Roman's, and then I wrote Patton's. So that is why, in order, that's how much detail I feel like they have. Logan's has the most detail, then Virgil's, and then Roman's, and then Patton's. I feel like Patton has the least amount of detail. But I've gone back and fiddled with them before I announced them and really organized them, shitting them all out. I just haven't told all of the information about all of them, I don't feel like.
Interesting. It seems like we have the same physical outcome as with wine. Roman, how do you feel now?
Still too sober for this.
That line specifically was put in because when I was talking to Alto about voice acting this scene, an issue I have, especially with younger kids who are writing alcohol and stuff, is it's not like you start drinking and then you get drunk. There is a big gap where you're tipsy, where you just have a headache, where you're still too sober to deal with a lot of stuff.
It's like the fuzziness is spread around more and I can't get a good grip on it. That was hard. And now I have a headache. This was a bad idea. Why did I think this would be a good idea?
Do not worry, Roman. I believe the more inebriated you become, the less focus you have, which in turn means less control over the generation of your magnetic charge. The type of alcohol
Sarah.
will increase the speed this
Yes.
happens, but I do not believe that the type matters.
I love you, Sarah. Such a good job.
So he gets too tipsy and can't generate a charge. Tough luck, Sparky.
Roman,
I'm tipsy, calculator watch. Not completely, but enough. I just told you I can't create anything more like this.
Two things to
then
note.
I apologize for this in advance.
First off, his eyes are blue, not
How
gold.
do you feel now?
Am I? Did you make me sober?
And second off, he made Roman sober. This entire chapter was for me to make that one joke.
Holy hell, you can do that?
And this is where you really start noticing it with Alto's voice acting. It's a lot slower. I don't know if they remembered my tips or notes or if I even said it, but I said you talk a lot slower, you're a lot more sluggish. It's not really actual slurring for a lot of people.
You'd be fun at parties, Lo.
I figured this knowledge would be unsettling for you.
I'm a beer and 2 shots of whiskey into the science lesson. I'm more amused than anything. You could just about drink any one.
That is not how it works, but I understand your point.
It's because he's
Roman,
tipsy.
would you like to give it a try?
Their little scoop back. And I love the constant flush on Virgil's face because he is drinking. And I love the derpy blep Roman has. It's the only time he bleps in the entire animatic. They all blep once, except for Logan. I think Patton bleps 2 or 3 times. I think 3 times. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, that
I
shot.
could do that.
That shot is beautiful. And then everybody's favorite line from this animatic.
You missed Emperor Palpatine.
The entire time I was writing that this scene, all I could think of was unlimited power. So I had to add that little shout in there. Shout out there.
I am not a villain. Honestly, I'd much rather be a superhero. It fits me more. Obviously.
Whatever you say, Static Shock.
Han just and Alto do so good. They didn't practice together or anything. They did their lines separately in our Discord. There's even a chat for them to practice their lines together, which Alto and if Robin's gonna be Patton, I don't know how it's gonna go, but Virgil and Patton have a lot of scenes together in the next episode. Really hope somebody utilizes that if possible. Or like even invite somebody in and be like, how do you think I did this line? And actually use it. I don't know. I don't care if you don't. But like, despite the fact they never used that, they play off of each other so well, their voices. And it's amazing to me because they I don't know if they talked to each other about it when they did it. I think they just did it. Finger gun style. Where did I get that idea from? Using just a finger instead of... I got that from something. I don't remember.
Oh. Okay.
Trying to focus it all into one
That's
point instead
so
of using
easy.
his whole hand.
I'm almost afraid if I actually tried to let out as much power as I could.
What happens if they all try to let out more power than they usually do if they actually tried?
Well, that's why you're practicing, isn't it? Patton and I both have a bit of a handle on what we can do through time and experience.
Because they're the 2 oldest ones, and when Patton moved out when he was younger, that's all he did was like, I have powers, I'm gonna play with them, and Logan had fun with his whole life. While Virgil is too afraid to use his, and Roman never fully explored his, because he was always not cautious, but careful.
All I did was be a living battery for my parents.
That's why.
I do feel a little better, even after a few small bowls. Like
Listen-
I'm not gonna
listen to
shock
their
the
back and
next
forth right
person I
here.
touch.
Alto in
About
hand.
time. I was tired of you passing me in the halls and shocking me.
Oh, no. I can do that whenever I want.
I'll get you back for that.
Beautiful.
enough for
It's
today. It's
so
already getting too dark to continue.
so good.
We can continue another day. For now, we should go see Patton before he begins to worry.
Hey Logan, would you zap my brain and sober me up if I keep drinking? I have work in the morning.
That is to be seen.
That's not a good idea. That's not even yours.
And the Virgil blep.
You're much more relaxed when you're drinking.
Gee, I wonder why. You can carry the rest, right, Princey? World's already spinning for me. Thanks.
Roman thought back to health again. His day was bad, yes. He just wanted to forget about it over a glass of wine. He did not expect a bonding moment on the roof with 2 of his roommates.
No.
Maybe he could convince Logan to leave Virgil as he is, as a punishment for making him carry everything back down on his own.
Maybe he could. I guess you'll find out in the next bit. I'm gonna stop right here with me little dancing. I love that little dancing celery. For writing that awesome story and being that lovely person that you are. No, Robin, you are a wonderful human being. I am so glad that I guess we're kind of working together with this, even though I just wrote the thing. You're doing all the hard work. I would like to thank Heavy Bleak, the awesome music cousin. The audio for this is amazing. The little cars playing in the background while they're on the rooftop, sounds of the city, the book closing, the pillow. I've listened to this with my eyes closed just to appreciate those bits. I love you, Han, my little mechanic. I love you, Alto. Robin did Patton, and that is Sarah. I love all of you guys. Anybody just see these guys hanging around, send them my love, because they are the sweetest people, and I don't talk to them nearly enough, and I really, really should. And thanks for watching, and I hope you are here for Robin's continued works, because she's just absolutely amazing. Bye, guys!